See that you are the ocean, that you are the wildness, that the wildness is inside you and it's expressing itself externally. If you don't see that, yeah, you will be seasick. You will be dragged because it's gonna happen anyway. Hello, friends. John Dalton here, Further Emergence podcast, where we go into love, consciousness, and mystery. And in this episode, we're going into waiting for the question, keeping your heart soft, and the wild ride of life. Now, let's have a look at some of the memes on the Further Emergence Instagram feed. The first one is pretty simple. It just says, "Are you actually listening, or are you just waiting to speak?" So I was only writing about this last week in my blog. I don't like to call it a blog. Who writes blogs anymore? But anyway, I put it somewhere. I suppose it's called a blog. And I was talking about waiting for the question. And in it, I was talking about that thing of, are you listening? Are you really listening? Can we listen? Or are we just, the person said something and we're just being polite. We're just like, we're just waiting for them to get to the end of whatever it is they're saying so that we can contribute our wonderful insight or our wonderful point. So it's part of this thing. And in this piece of writing, I was talking about waiting for the question, which comes up a lot. And people are like, what does that mean? And it's like, well, it's being able to see the difference between a question and a report. Because you could be talking to somebody and they could be saying, oh, I'm in this situation. I gave a couple of examples. So I meet a friend. She's concerned her boyfriend is going to break up with her. Then in the course of the conversation, it turns out she's married and her husband doesn't know about it. Doesn't know about the boyfriend. And I sort of jump in with, well, you think you might have relationship issues, you have a boyfriend, your husband doesn't know about it, and all this kind of thing. And she, of course, reacts very defensively and kind of storms off, basically. So, that's a case of listening to a report, which sounds like a question. It sounds like the person is saying, can you help me? I don't know what to do. And in this example, she did actually say, I don't know what to do. But somebody saying, I don't know what to do, isn't somebody saying, what do you think I should do? But mostly it's a qualitative difference. It's a feeling inside, the difference between a report and a question. A report is somebody basically just telling you how it is for them, how it is in their little reality. And it might sound like they're saying, help me, can you offer me some solutions? But I have found, probably like you have found, that's not the case. And if you start offering solutions, if you start answering questions that haven't been asked, it doesn't go well because there isn't an opening. There's no opening in the person to actually hear what you have to say. So it just disturbs you because we can all see each other's blind spots a lot easier than we can see our own. That's why it's so easy to look at other people and know what's going on with them, or why the mistakes they're making, or what obviously looks like not a great idea. We can see that because it's not, our blind spots. Our own blind spots, well, we can't see them. So when we say, oh, here's what you should do, it's just going to bounce off them because there isn't an opening. There isn't an opening for them to hear you. And if you are starting from this position of you're not really listening, you're just waiting for your chance to say something, well, it's probably not going to go well. It's probably going to end up in an argument. Because we have this idea that, well, it's equal, isn't it? I'll say what I think, you say what you think, then I'll say what I think of what you said, and back and forth. It's like we're playing tennis, and the ball is in my court, so I get to say my piece. Then I lob it back to you and you get to say your piece. That's not actually happening most of the time. I mean, sometimes it does happen like that, particularly when you're talking about abstract, out there kind of things. Then, yeah. But when somebody's telling you what's going on for them and they're upset and I don't know what to do, and you can see what to do. You can see it's so obvious what they need to do. You can say it's so obvious what the problem is, and you say it to them, and then they accuse you of irrational, anything. They can accuse you of anything. There's an old joke about this guy who goes to his neighbor and says, "Can I borrow your axe?" And the neighbor says, "No, I'm using it." So what are you using it for? "I'm using it to stir the soup." And it's like, if you don't want to do something, any excuse will do, So it's the same. Like, people will just say, if you offer solutions to a problem that they haven't asked you about directly, they'll just bounce off, and they'll either reject it or they'll attack you with all sorts of seemingly irrational kind of things, accuse you of things, which is very different from a question. So I've found that it starts off with recognizing this difference between a report and a question. And when you know that someone's just giving you a report, you can change gears internally, and you can kind of know, okay, this is a report, so they don't want feedback. They don't want the ball hasn't been, lobbed across the court at me and now I have to return it. You don't have to return it. You can just listen. That's really all they want. They just want some company. They want to be heard. They want like a witness to their reality. And sometimes what they want to hear is themselves telling it out, talking it out. So it's not like a case of you just like sit back and go, "Oh, this is a report, I don't even need to be here." You do need to be there. It's very important for you to be there. But once you understand why you're there. So when, if I kind of go, "Oh, this is a report," then I listen. I make sure they know I'm listening. So I'm nodding. I'm going, "Yes, right, okay, yeah." So they know I'm very actively listening to what they're saying. And then if I need some clarification, I'll ask for that. Who's that guy again? Okay, how long was that for? That kind of thing. And I just let them talk and let them talk and let them talk, which requires a certain amount of selflessness, a certain amount of getting out of the way, in one way. But before you start thinking I'm like very holy or anything like that, I kind of also do it because I know what it's like to not do it. I know what it's like to start handing in solutions and start answering questions that haven't been asked. It's awful because you get attacked and your brilliant observations are completely discounted. And they're brilliant because you're not in their situation, so you can see what needs to be done pretty clearly. And then you're like, well, I just gave you the solution and you're still complaining. So I don't like that. It's disturbing. It's disturbing for me and it's disturbing for the other person. So that's a big motivator for me, keeping quiet, listening, doing all the things I was saying. So I'm doing that. I'm listening. I'm letting them know I'm hearing them. I'm being quiet. And I'm letting them tell me their report. I'm witnessing the report. And nothing else might happen. They might get to the end of the report and that's it. And you go, that's fine. It's so funny. Like, I've had conversations, long conversations, hour and a half conversations with people where I might have said 10 words, 15 words in the whole time. And they get to the end of the report and they go, "Thank you so much. That was so helpful." Thank you for that. You really helped me with that. I really, thank you for your, I've even had people say, "Thank you for your words of wisdom." And I know all my words of wisdom, the only words I said were, "Yes, right, okay, thank you," whatever. But it's because they got to hear themselves. They work things out as they're saying it. So that's if they get to through the whole report, nothing different. But The other thing that can happen is they can actually ask a question. And how you know the difference is, it's almost like everything goes very quiet, everything slows down, feels like slow motion except for the person, and there's a change in the atmosphere. I register it in my system. There's something happening here. And then it's like a little window opens into their reality. And they go, I'm in a mess. What do you think? What do you think I should do? Or something like that. Then I'll start saying things. Then I'll offer what my perspective, what it looks like to me, because I'm not in there. And the reason I'll do that is because there's an opening. There's a little opening has opened up into their reality, and it's very satisfying. Then what I say is not bounced off anything. There's no defense, because there's an opening and they've invited me in. They've invited a communication into their reality. And because of that, there's no disturbance, there's no resistance. It just goes straight in. They receive it in the loving spirit that it's offered in. They don't go on the attack. And, most times they'll use it. They'll use what I say. But even if they don't, there's something very satisfying about it compared to answering a question that hasn't been asked. So being able to tell the difference between a real question and a report, so helpful. It just cuts down so much static in your life, because you don't have these fractious, difficult kind of conversations with people. And it's not easy. It can be quite difficult to sit on, to keep quiet when it's what's going on is blatantly obvious to you. But it's that thing of trusting people to work out their own unconscious, and trusting that you don't have the full picture, meaning you don't have the full picture of what they're working out in their life. All you can see is this bit that they're having trouble with. And to sort of jump in there and go, oh, now hang on, let me ride in on my white horse and fix all this. It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. So being able to wait and listen and wait and kind of trust they're going to figure it out. And you doing that actually sets the stage for a real question. It's almost like their system's testing you. This is what it feels like anyway. It's almost like the system is going, can you respect me? Can you respect me that I am going to figure this out for myself? And if you can not jump in with answering a question that hasn't been asked, and be quiet and be still and be there for them and listen, it's almost like the system goes, okay. And then the curtain opens and a real question comes. And it's like you've earned the privilege to actually answer that question. And then it's lovely. It's lovely for everybody. And no problems. So, good to watch whether you're actually listening or waiting for your chance. And then very helpful to begin to develop this ability to tell the difference between a report and a question. And it's so funny. If you've never heard this idea before, it's the first time, you are probably going to laugh out loud when you get it. When you're in the middle of listening to somebody and you're about to automatically just launch into your response, and then you suddenly go, this is what John was talking about. This is a report. This is actually a report. You will probably find yourself laughing because it's so obvious when you see the two apart. It's so obvious. That's not to say I don't still, stumble into it. It's very ingrained in us to answer questions that haven't been asked. But most of the time, I don't. And it's so much more satisfying. The next one says, please don't ever get tired of being a good person with a good heart.
I know it's hard being taken advantage of and feeling like it's better to be cold-hearted, but people like you matter and are so important to the world.
It's so easy to kind of feel like having a soft heart, going out of your way to keep your heart soft is pointless. It's so easy to feel like that. It's like, what does it matter? What does it matter if I hold the door for somebody? What does it matter if I smile at somebody? What does it matter if I'm friendly to an unfriendly salesperson? These are, compared to the big things that are happening in the world and humanity and evolution and 3D and 5D and the Illuminati and all, what does that matter? How is that going to help anything? Just being soft-hearted. Because when you like, even the word soft-hearted, that means like you're soft. Doesn't that mean like you're not tough? You're not like, you're just a pushover. like it says in this meme about being taken advantage of. Because you trust somebody and then they take advantage of you. And then the next time, well, I'm not going to trust, particularly, if you trust somebody and they take advantage of you, the next time you got to trust somebody, they'll be like, don't do it, because they're just going to take advantage of you again, just like that other person, and you want to tighten up. And to not do that, am I just a fool? Am I just a fool trusting, caring, smiling, letting people out in traffic? And you're not. You're not at all. It's so important. These small things are so important. The world turns on these things. These little small things are like the oil that moves, that keeps everything flowing smoothly, beautifully. And the feeling of and the idea of a bigger world out there is just that. It's an idea. Where is it? Where is the big world out there? Have you ever experienced it? Like directly? Out there where things are happening? It's like the idea of society. Have you ever seen society? Have you ever experienced society? It's an idea, Whereas what your direct experience, what you can do and what you have agency over is whether you smile at somebody, is whether you make goo-goo face at a baby in front of you in the line in the checkout. That's something you can change. And I regularly put up memes about kindness and how important it is and how easy it is to do. From your point of view, it's a small thing to do, a small act of kindness. But that can have a big, lifetime effect on another person. But don't do it for other people. As you know, I'm not big on altruism for its own sake, because it's so easy to just define yourself by, I'm such a good person because I do all of this stuff, which is not true. You're a good person anyway. And the good stuff just comes out of you, which is very different. Like, I have to go and do good things. Or I'm not a good person. That's indoctrination. It's not real. You're a good person and it just comes out of you. But do it because it feels good. Don't do it because you expect, I smiled at that person, so they should smile back at me. I mean, a lot of people don't, because everybody is gripped in fear. A lot of people are very consumed by fear. So they don't smile back at you because they're terrified. It's not because they don't like you or because they kind of don't value the fact that you smiled at them. They might look at you like that you're an idiot. They might go, God, is that fool smiling? But none of that matters, okay? It's what's the reason to do it, the reason I do it anyway, is because it's me expressing what's inside me. The kindness is in there. It's just nice for it to come out. Makes me feel good. Doesn't make me feel good because they smile back at me or they go, oh, thank you for holding the door for me. Or, you know, how many people have you let out in traffic and they haven't waved to you or acknowledged it at all? They just come out in front of you and you're like, and there's nothing coming back. Oh, okay. But I'm not doing it for that person. I'm doing it because we're all in these stupid cars on this stupid road at this stupid time of day when everybody seems to be on the same road. It's called rush hour. We're all here, we're all stuck in the same thing. And, you know, I want to get home as much as anybody else does. And I've seen this car trying to get out. I've seen the 10 cars in front of me not let them out. I'm just going to let them out. It's not going to be the end of the world. I'm not going to get home that much later. I'm just going to do it because it's in me to do it. Not because I love that person. I don't know that person. Maybe they're a terrible person. I'm just doing it because it's in me to do it. So I just do it. And then when they don't acknowledge it, don't wave, don't do anything, I don't care. Because I didn't do it for that. I just did it because it was in me to do it. So if you get that, it really does change the world. You kind of go, what? Is it going to stop all the wars and this thing and that thing? And yes, it will. I'm like, that's ridiculous. How could it, you know? But it's like if everybody did that, it would stop a lot of things. Because it's hard to go towards somebody when you're just naturally being kind. You're naturally letting your kindness out. You know, all the people, if everybody was doing it. You know, okay, yeah, but they're not. And the ones who aren't are going to take advantage. You know, there's so many memes on the internet about how to protect yourself, how to not give too much, you know, contain your boundaries because, you know, takers don't have any, you know, or stuff like that, you know. And it's like, understandable. Very understandable. But it's kind of awful, isn't it? It's kind of awful to live like that. Of like, how much have I given that person? And it can only change in you. There's only you. It feels like there's lots of other people. And it's all happening out there. Maybe it is, but you don't have any experience of that, just like I don't. Like I'm walking along a track here. I could be walking through the middle of a city, surrounded by people. It wouldn't make much difference. It's still all my little story, my little experience. Just like yours is just yours. Even if I'm in a stadium with hundreds of thousands of people, it's still my experience of this stadium, just like it'll be just yours, you know. This idea of like it's all out there, it's all happening out there. Part of that is designed to encourage you to feel powerless. That how you feel about things doesn't matter. What you think doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you smile or not. It doesn't matter whether you're kind or not. When it does, it makes a huge difference. But it seems like such a small little thing. How could such a small little thing make a difference, you know? But like we're surrounded by examples of small little things adding up to big things, you know? So many examples, I can't think of any of them right now, but there are loads of examples of small little things that on their own are nothing. Like rain, you know, one drop of rain doesn't make any difference, but because there's so many of them, and suddenly, you know, the rivers are flowing and everything is going great. Okay, not the best analogy, but you know, you get the idea. So you're a little drop. You know, you're like that's like the Rumi thing of, you know, you're the whole ocean contained in a drop. So it matters what you do. And this thing of being kind matters greatly. So I'm just echoing what this person was saying. Don't stop. It can be tiring and you can feel like you don't want to, but don't stop being kind-hearted. Don't let anything change that. Doesn't matter what happens. That's your most precious thing because it's who you are. Don't let anything change it. Don't let anything take it away. and keep on with it, because it matters. It really matters.
And the last one is a quote from Leonard Cohen, and it says, "If you don't become the ocean, you'll be seasick every day."
Now, far be it from me to contradict Leonard Cohen, but when he says, if you don't become the ocean, you'll be seasick every day, I would change that slightly to, if you don't realize you're the ocean. Because you don't have to become it, you already are it. But it's a great line. When I used to not like Leonard Cohen at all. First time I heard him, I was like, oh God, he's so depressing. But then, as I gained more experience in life, I came to really appreciate his songwriting, music, sense of humor. This is a great line though. This, if you don't realize you're the ocean, if you don't become the ocean, if you don't realize you're the ocean, you'll be seasick every day. And it's so true, particularly if you're interested in consciousness. And if you're listening to me, you probably are. You'll kind of know it. The spiritual life, the life in consciousness, it can be a bit of a roller coaster, because you start to get with the flow of things, which accelerates things. So your unconsciousness starts to come up, and it can come up faster and faster and faster. You start to get through it a lot quicker, which sounds lovely. You think, oh, well, doesn't that mean I'm becoming, way more conscious? Yes, but also it can feel more turbulent, particularly if you don't realize you're the ocean. For example, would you say that the ocean is seasick? Probably not. Probably doesn't even know what seasickness is, because it's just being the ocean, okay? But if you're like trying to, keep being a little thing in a big ocean, then you will be seasick all the time. It reminds me of that other one, which I love. And it's this idea of, or quotation of, let go or be dragged, It's so true, It's like this thing, whatever comes, let it come, whatever stays, let it stay, whatever goes, let it go. I'm just trotting out the memes here, but they're all around the same thing. And that is that it's a wild ride. Life is a wild ride. We try to make it safe. We make our little houses, make our little roads, put all our little houses in a row. We try and make it safe. And compared to the past, historically, it is a lot more safe. But there's no protection from the wildness of life. You know it yourself. Nothing happens for years, and then suddenly everything blows up. I remember my spiritual teacher Barry Long talking about his brother, I think it was his brother, and he was rejected by his family, and you're crazy, and this whole spiritual thing, whatever. And I'm sure he gave them good grounds for that. But anyway, his brother rang him one day and said that he just discovered that his wife was having an affair, and he was devastated by this. And Barry was like, well, welcome to my world. Which I suppose is not the most compassionate thing to say, but it's kind of true. It's basically like Barry was going, okay, you've just realized you're on a wild ride. You've just had that thing happen. So we've all had those kind of things happen, The marriages fall apart, the businesses fall apart, the child gets sick, the bus hits you. Or just suddenly things change out of nowhere on the inside. You wake up. I remember working with a woman years ago, back when I was seeing people in person, very long time ago, maybe 30 years ago. And, she was coming for craniosacral, and she was lying flat on the table. It was very quiet, very still. I'm there at her head, or maybe I was at her feet. That's right, I was at her feet, tuning in, helping things to release. Very quiet play, And out of the blue, she sits up, bolt upright, and says, "You know what, John? It's a shocking thing to wake up one morning and realize you have 5 children. I've never forgot that, because she just so succinctly described life in consciousness, where suddenly you make a little shift in consciousness, what seems like a little shift, and everything looks different. It's like one of those magic puzzle things where you sort of turn it and it looks like a circle, and then you keep turning it and suddenly it looks like a square. Just your perspective changes and everything changes on the inside. And you're like that woman. What? I've got 5 children? How did that happen? But similarly, you can kind of go, I've been on this career path thinking I loved it. And suddenly I realize I'm just doing it to try and please my parents. And suddenly you're like, what? I've spent 20 years just trying to please my parents. They like it, they're happy, but I'm not happy. I hate being a pilot or an accountant or whatever it is. So the spiritual life, the ocean that you are, it's doing what oceans do. It's bashing against the rocks. Over here it's dead flat. Over here it's got little waves, and then the other waves are like gently coming in and out on the shore and the beautiful sandy beach, and then others are, as I say, bashing against the rocks. It's all part of it. And if you are not okay with that, if you are resistant to that, whether it's, oh no, I don't want to think about, I'm just doing this to please my parents, or whatever, if you resist it on the inside and you squash it down, a very clear visual I have for squashing things down is a sandwich. You ever made a sandwich where you put too much stuff in, you put the other bit of bread on the top, and you're like, oh, this is going to be great. And if you squash it down too much, it all comes out the sides. It's the same with our stuff. If you have a little inkling that something is going on the inside, you get a little sense of, I hit into this little spot and I kind of reacted. If you kind of go, nope, don't want to think about that, it'll just come out the side anyway. But when it comes out the side, it's always a bit embarrassing. It's always a bit, you're taking the head off somebody that you love, or you're acting out something, you're eating something you don't want to, you're drinking something you don't want to be drinking, you're kissing someone you shouldn't be kissing, so on. Or whether you're resisting it externally. It's like, I do want to be a pilot. I'm going to keep on at being a pilot. I don't want to, it will just get taken off you until you get with the program, and that's the wildness of it, that's the movement of it, and that's why you'll be seasick if you don't get with it, or if you don't accept it, what's actually happened. See that you are the ocean, that you are the wildness, that the wildness is inside you and it's expressing itself externally. If you don't see that, you will be seasick. You will be dragged because it's gonna happen anyway. So it's a matter of whether you're going to be easy with it. And I'm only saying this to you because you are interested in consciousness. For people who aren't interested in consciousness, it is a bit of a struggle. It is a bit of a battle. It is a bit of a roller coaster, and put all sorts of efforts into trying to protect and trying to contain a wild thing that can't be contained. But that's okay. It's not like they're wrong. People who are not interested in this are wrong. I'm not saying that at all. But if you are conscious of it, and you're interested in consciousness, or you're interested in the spiritual life, then the more you're in tune with this, and the more you can kind of go, yeah, I don't know how I'm doing it, but I'm going to own it all. I'm going to own all the wildness, everything. I'm going to own it all. I'm going to be with it all. I'm going to try and be with it all. But then you go from being smashed around by the waves to a sort of spiritual surfing. You're sort of going with the waves. You're not resisting them, you're not fighting them. You're kind of enjoying them. I've never surfed, so I don't know, but they look like they're having a good time. So that's the kind of opposite. That's the flip side of it. The flip side of this feeling of being seasick or feeling of being dragged. So yeah, if you haven't listened to Leonard Cohen's music, I encourage you to do that. It's some of, because he's a poet and he makes music as well. I mean, he's not with us anymore, but yeah, his lyrics are very good. They're not all brilliant, I have to say. There's some duds, of course, but there's a lot of good stuff in there as well. All right, that's all I have for you this time. I trust you're well. I trust you're of good cheer, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.